Alert from Odd Studio. Creating a new live broadcast. Please wait.
Hello. I hope I'm connected here. I'm trying out something new. Don't know how I can access the chat this way. Okay, it looks like people are checking in. I'm trying to something that may hopefully correct our connection problems. I'm going through OBS. I'm still not real familiar with this. I'm not sure how to view the chat in this mode. Give me a second. Okay. Let's see if I can. The video seems to be frozen. Okay. Let's see if I can. Video seems to be frozen. Okay. Okay, I'm not sure if this is the best way to do it. I went on YouTube momentarily and set up a pop-up chat, so I can see the chat now as well. Okay. Let me know if there's any issues in the. Put it into the chat. Yeah. Thank you, Shashank. I followed your instructions to set this up through OBS. The only thing I haven't figured out yet is how to see the chat without going through YouTube. Okay, so let's just get started. I can see the chat and I think we've got a decent connection. So we'll just go. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Okay, so Today we're going to begin a tour through the different realms of existence, and we're going to start at the bottom and work our way up. So today I'm going to talk about Niraya, that is the hell realms. This is the lowest possible state of rebirth, the most intense suffering. And there's a lot of variation within this realm. A couple of general remarks to make. First of all, as in every form of existence in Buddhism, there is no eternal existence. Existence in the hell is existence in the hell realm is temporary, has a lifespan, and the beings are born there, and then their karma runs out, and they cease to exist from that realm and are reborn elsewhere. So it's different than going to hell in the Christian tradition, where it's considered to be eternal. There is no eternal damnation in Buddhism, no eternal salvation within samsara. Another general remark to make is that we'll find when we get up to the sagas, the so-called heaven realms, we see that there is a very well-developed map or scheme to place various realms of heaven in clearly defined levels. We don't find this with Niraya. There's quite a muddle actually in the sources. There's no one established scheme of different hells in layers of intensity or so forth. The original sutta references to Niraya are principally from a couple of suttas in the Majjhima Nikaya, where there's some detailed descriptions of existence in what's called Mahaniraya, the Great Hell. And then we have in other sources, we have mentions of other hell realms, but they're never organized into a neat scheme. Although there seems to have been some attempts at this in the commentaries. There is a mention of 8 Mahanirayas in one of the Jatakas, or 8 great hells, and each one has 16 auxiliary or subsidiary hells associated with them. And the various hells are named, but there's no consistency. So we don't really have a neat picture. It may be the case that in the oldest strata there was only Niraya, there's only hell, or the Great Niraya, and then various varieties were added later. But it seems that the idea is there's a great variety of possible sufferings after rebirth into one of these hell realms. These sufferings take various forms. Burning fire or boiling in oil, this type of thing, is suffering through intense heat, is a common one. Uh, Another one is various kinds of cutting and slashing with swords or hooks, or uh, sharp-beaked birds and insects and so on. And a third kind that pops up in several places is suffering through filth, being reborn into a realm where one is plunged into pits of feces and urine and so on. So there's a huge variety of these different sufferings. There is there are, I think, 2 or 3 jatakas that deal in great detail, elaborate detail, with the various sufferings in the various hell realms. And this is something that I think we see also in the West, in the Christian tradition, that uh, human commentators and writers about the different realms of existence seem to exercise much more creative exuberance in describing the sufferings of hell than they do about the pleasures of heaven. We certainly have a great deal of detail. The hell realms are populated by 2 classes of beings. There are those beings who, because of their gross misbehavior in the human realm, are reborn into hell. And these are called Niraya, the hell beings. There are also then the wardens or guards of hell, the Niraya. These are the demonic beings who inflict the tortures on the inhabitants of these realms. There was a debate in early Buddhism whether the hell wardens should be considered as actual beings with their own consciousness and karma, or they're just illusions or projections of the suffering beings themselves, create these images in their mind of demons to torment them. This is one of the debates in the Katawatu, and the Theravada position ends up being that the hell beings are actually real beings, that the hell wardens are actually real beings, and they're also in a state of suffering. They're living a miserable existence in I mean, they're in hell also. You know? The depictions we have of the wardens, particularly in the text in the Majjhima, is that they're sadistic and malicious, and they sometimes psychologically torment their victims. When one of the sufferers complains of suffering from great thirst, the hell warden says, "Well, let me help you, my dear," and he pours molten copper down the fellow's throat. You know, this kind of thing. One of the interesting beings associated with the hell realms is Yama, the Lord of Hell, and he's actually depicted as kind of a sympathetic figure. He does not enjoy his position as being the gatekeeper or warden of hell. um, and he seems to want to avoid casting beings into hell. When someone dies and is reborn into Niraya, the depiction in the Majjhima Nikaya is that uh, he interviews the newcomer and says, "Did you not ever in your life see a sick person or an old person or a dying person?" Yes, I did. Did you not then think I too am subject to sickness, old age, and death? I too should be careful of my karma. No, I never thought of that. Oh, you're a hopeless case, and he sends him into hell. But it seems like he's trying to give them a chance. uh, there is some confusion sometimes between Yama as the Lord of Hell and Yama as the third level of heaven. Um, they are spelled differently. Yama as the Lord of Hell has, I don't want to get this right. I'm not sure. I'm just looking to see if I can make sure which is which. Okay, Yama as a heaven world has a long A, Y long A, M-A, Yama. Yama as the Lord of Death is a short A. But there may have been actually a pre-Buddhist connection here. It's curious that in at least one version of the pre-Buddhist Brahmanical cosmology, the third heaven was called Yama, and it was the realm of the ancestors, those who died from the human realm and were reborn into this particular heaven. So there may have been some original cross-reference there, but that's speculative. We also have in Theravada Buddhist cosmology, there are no cold hells per se, as we find in Tibetan Buddhism, or even in the Sarvastivadin text, the Abhidharma Kosha. There are mention of cold hells. We don't have cold hells in the Theravada. All the hells are depicted generally with a lot of heat. The one exception that might in a way be classified as a cold hell is the case of the Lokantara Nirayas, the interworld hells. The world system is conceived of as a round disc with an iron wall around it, and there's an infinite number of these. They're called chakawalas, the world systems. There's an infinite number of these arrayed on a two-dimensional plane, and they're so close together that the walls touch and create roughly triangular spaces in between. And these spaces are completely cold and dark because the sun rotates around Sinnaru. It doesn't, and it's at a lower level than the edge of the iron wall. So these triangular spaces are black, cold, dark, empty space. And beings can be reborn in there from very bad karma. You're reborn into that realm, and they crawl around like bats on the outer edge of the walls between the worlds. And one of the sufferings in that form of existence is intense loneliness, because the space is so vast and there's so few of them that they never or very rarely encounter another being, and they believe that they are the only being in the universe, and they suffer intense loneliness as well as hunger and thirst and cold. But occasionally, at rare intervals, two of them will encounter each other on the wall, brush up against each other, and when that happens, they both believe they found something to eat, and they begin to struggle, and they fall off the wall, and they fall down into the caustic ocean beneath and are dissolved, and that's the end of them. The physical location of Niraya was conceived to be under the earth. Uh, in the oldest text, this is not specified, although we do have stories in the commentaries of certain individuals, the most prominent being Devadatta, the Buddha's cousin who betrayed him, who tried to murder him actually. Um, when he came to the end of his life, because his sins were so great, the earth beneath him cracked open, and he fell directly down from earth into hell, into this fiery chasm. So that would indicate the hell being below the earth. There's one commentarial reference that says that the hell realm is located 100 yojanas beneath the surface of the earth. So this is another parallel, actually, to a Western tradition that often conceives of hell as being below. The time span a being spends in Niraya is varied. There's no fixed length of life there. Some beings can remain there for a very long time, even for a whole kappa. Others can be very brief. There's a story of Queen Malika, King Pasenadi's wife, who lived a very virtuous life except for one lapse where she committed a sexual indiscretion. And because of that, she was reborn in hell, but she only remained there for 6 days, and then she was reborn immediately into one of the heaven worlds. So the length of time spent in hell is extremely varied, can be very brief or very long. One of the particular one of these minor hells that gets mentioned only briefly in one place is in the Samyutta Nikaya. There are a couple of short suttas where first an actor, then a soldier speaks with the Buddha, and that the actor tells the Buddha, "We're told in our tradition amongst the theater people that when an actor dies, he goes to the heaven of the laughing gods. Is this true?" And the Buddha remained silent. And he asked the second time, then a third time. And the third time, when the Tathagata is asked a question, he always replies on the third time. And he says, because you have led so many people into delusion and desire, you will, as a performer, you will be reborn into the hell of the laughing demons. And there's this very parallel sutta immediately follows, where the soldier says that he asks, he says, we're told in our tradition that we'll go to the great heaven of warriors. And the Buddha at the third time, being asked for the third time, he says, no, you will be reborn in the hell of swords. So, so these are only mentioned, these particular hells are only mentioned in these places. So as I said at the outset, it's impossible to put all these different hells into a logical scheme. Another one that gets mentioned in at least a few places is the copper cauldron hell, where beings are thrown into a huge cauldron of boiling copper, and they sink to the bottom and rise to the top. And when it may be like 1,000 years until they rise to the top and get a breath of air, and then they sink again. And some of the hell punishments are described as being very specific to the indiscretions of the person when they were human. For example, there's one in one of the Jataka stories about hell realms. There's a mention of what happens to adulterers. They see an image of their beloved illicit partner at the top of a tall tree, beckoning them to come and come to them with open arms. And the tree is covered in sharp thorns, which tear and cut the body of the person as he climbs the tree. And then when he gets to the top, the image dissolves and disappears. So this is one example. What else to say about the hell realms? I think we've probably covered the general grounds, and I'm happy now to turn to the chat and see what we got here. Okay, if the hell and other realms exist, what is it that goes there? It's a very broad, general question. It comes up in different forms all the time. What is it that is reborn? It's actually nothing is reborn. There's only consciousness arising afresh in new conditions according to karma. You have to get away from the idea of something transmigrating or transferring from place to place. Someone's saying there's a background roar. Wait a minute. Let me see. Does that see if that shuts off that background roar? I've got an external fan that I forgot to turn off. Let me do it. Can you describe how to do the Buddha meditation technique? I can't briefly describe it here. Go on to my channel, YouTube channel. That I have numerous videos on the meditation technique, and also on our website I have talks about that. It's too time consuming to try and give meditation instruction now. What is the purpose of the hell realms? Is it to pay off bad karma or something more? It's a result of karma. When you perform any action with body, speech, or mind, you're creating karma. And if your karma isn't, your actions are intensely negative, then the karmic results will be also intensely negative. Another way of thinking about it is you condition your mind by your actions. And so after death, you go to where you're reborn into a place that's suitable for your state of consciousness. So if someone is leading a very wicked life and doing a lot of particularly acts of violence and cruelty, this is a particular source of hellish rebirth. You know, they're already, if they're routinely committing acts of murder and violence, then they've, even before their death, they've already conditioned their mind state to a hellish kind of a condition, and then they naturally arise in that low condition. Do hell beings experience lust? Generally, I would think not. I think that the level of suffering would be too intense. But there is that one case that I mentioned about someone who's committed sexual misconduct, of particularly adultery in the human life, being lured into suffering by an image of their desired partner in the afterworld. But I think lust is not something that would be common with hell beings, because they're so busy being burnt up and cut up and tortured. I think they hardly have time for that. Are shifts in consequent rebirth highly fluctuant, or are they generally rather gradual? An example of the former would be going from a wise human to an insect, from the depths of hell to the highest bliss and wisdom. The latter would be similar to the theory of evolution, with changes happening slowly over a long period of time, via mysterious force, perhaps craving. Um, well, all we really have to go by is some stories about beings taking rebirth in the suttas, and it seems like, or in the commentaries mostly, it seems like mostly the pattern of rebirth, it does seem to be more in the way of gradual change. Uh, we often hear cases of somebody being reborn hundreds of times as an animal, for example. Um, but there are also cases of beings making big jumps up or down, falling from the Dewa realm all the way down to hell, or vice versa. Part of what drives the rebirth process is not just the karma of this lifetime, but there may be unextinguished karmas from previous lifetimes that can come to the fore and cause a major change in the rebirth pattern. But I think the general course seems to be minor steps up or down. Question: I do not understand why liberation manifests after death for Buddha and Arahant, not before. Um, well, there is a liberation for the Buddha in the life. Now, once he's become enlightened, then he's thrown off the fetters, and he's living as a liberated person. Um, but it's only after death that there's a distinction between nibbana and parinibbana. And nibbana can be experienced in the life, but parinibbana is complete extinction of the aggregates. So when the Buddha was enlightened, he still had his body, he still had feelings, perceptions, and so on. But he was liberated. He had no more negative mind states, no more suffering. He was illuminated. There was no more darkness in his mind, and he was free. Why do objects that are made by the mind, such as imagination or dreams, feel separate from the observer, or felt as a dualistic subject-object and the fact they're all just workings of the same faculty that is chitta. They're actually not, technically, they're not chitta, they're chitasaka. Objects of consciousness is a separate faculty of mind than consciousness itself. Um, at some level, they're all, even the external world is all, it's all one at some highly philosophical level. But at a technical level of mind moments, what's happening is consciousness arising to a mind-made object, a nimitta. So the chitta is in Abhidhamma terms, the chitta is separate from the chittasika, the mind object. There are two sides of the mind, subject and object. Someone's saying the fan noise is audible, though not distracting. Yeah, there's actually an internal fan in the computer itself that I hear is going, and I can't do anything about that. But I also have an external fan that I generally try to remember to turn it off before doing these streams. It's off now, so if you're hearing anything, it's just the internal fan. How does the potency of merit-making change as one ascends up to fortunate realms? Does giving virtue meditation done on the human plane generate more karma than it would in a higher realm? I don't think so, but it's harder to do in a higher realm. There's no in the Dewa realms. There's no sense of urgency. The lifespan is so long, and there's also no gross suffering. So there's no real incentive to try and escape from suffering. But it is possible for Devas to make merit, but it's not as easy for them. But in terms of the potency of the karma, I don't really see why there would be a difference. I have heard bodhisattvas can reincarnate as multiple beings in one life. Can human beings be reincarnated in multiple realms at once? For example, certain hells and animal realms. That idea of bodhisattvas reincarnating multiple beings is not something we recognize in Theravada. We understand the rebirth process as being in a single consciousness stream, and it doesn't separate or bifurcate. Dear Edgin, what is the Theravada view on panpsychism, the view that considers mind as fundamental and ubiquitous feature of reality, not a phenomena created by the body, instead the consciousness of microscopic bits with certain limited degrees of freedom, somewhat combined to give them macroscopic consciousness and the whole being with complex functions. Yeah, I'm aware of this philosophy of panpsychism. I don't think it's a view that would be supported by the Theravada Abhidhamma, because there's always a clear distinction between mind and matter. Chitta and chittasika are mental. Rupa is material, and the material is considered to be non-conscious, inert. There may have been other schools of Buddhism that would be more resonant with panpsychism. I'm thinking maybe perhaps the Yogacara tradition. But in the Theravada, I don't see that as being compatible. Is being an inanimate object like a rock a form of hell? No, definitely not. There is we'll probably get to at least briefly touch on it, the realm of the unconscious beings that would be closer to being a rock. But being In hell, you're conscious. You have perception, but it's perception of intense suffering. Please talk about people who escaped the bell. I don't know. I don't know. I don't recognize that story. Someone says the audio is holding up well. Good. I think maybe this is looked at using the using OBS instead of the YouTube directly, because there's more flexibility in setting up the stream. Can taking one's life through medically assisted dying lead to birth in the hell realm? Even though a person is already on the spiritual path and suffering from chronic unbearable pain. There's no there's definitely no allowance for suicide in the Buddhist system of ethics, except the one case would be someone who's already an arahant, because arahant makes no karma, and it's said that an arahant, if he's come to the end of his life and the body becomes just a source of suffering and pain. There's no point keeping it. He can commit. He can speed up his end. It's possible that we could even say the Buddha did this, because he released the right life faculty, and then which is a yogic action of just mentally giving up the power of life, and also he could be said to have engineered a physical actuation of that by eating the bad pork that he forbid everyone else to eat. But for a person who's not enlightened, committing an act of suicide is a negative ending. You're taking a life. You're breaking the first precept, and your last mind moments will have to be ones of destruction. You're willing your own destruction. And I don't think it's any different whether it's medically assisted or not. It's suicide. So I think it's wrong to do that. I don't think it's ever a spiritual benefit. It's cold out. Yes, it is. It's minus 10 degrees today here. Does existing a formless realm where there is absolutely no physicality into the mind can arise independent of the body? Yes, that's one of the two cases. The other is in between births. The mind arises again. It's not the mind when the body is destroyed. The mind arises again somewhere else. If a form being takes rebirth in the upper realm, the first mind moment is pure mind is arisen dependent on previous mind body. But given that formless times are quite long, next moments arise on previous ones are purely mental. Yes. Is the body generally redundant? No, I wouldn't say that the body is redundant, because it's the kind of default mode is to have a body and mind associated, working together. This is the dependent origination, body and mind, nama rupa. The arupa realms are kind of a special case. It's certainly not the normal state of things, but it does indicate that mind is not absolutely dependent on body. It can exist without body. Escape hell from the last minute. Okay, it was a typo. He put bell, and I thought there was some story about someone escaping from the bell. Um, I don't know. I can't think of a case immediately of someone narrowly escaping hell. No, there is a no. I One does come to mind now. There is a story in, I think it's a Dhammapada commentary, of a robber who was going to be put to death, and he was being led through the town to have his head chopped off, and there was an enlightened bhikkhu saw them coming down the street, and they'd given the robber, as his last meal, they'd given him a piece of fruit to eat. The bhikkhu realized, with his power of his mind, he realized that this fellow was going to be reborn in hell unless he could make merit at the last moment. And, so he stood in the line of sight of this fellow, and the fellow then decided to do a meritorious deed and gave his fruit to the bhikkhu. And because of that meritorious deed, he escaped a hellish rebirth. But then the story has a twist, because he would have been reborn as a Dewa, but another few feet on in his march to the killing place, he saw a beautiful young girl and he felt lust arise, and because of that he was reborn as a Peta in the forest. If someone has committed heinous acts but later becomes enlightened in the same lifetime, are they free from going to hell realms? Yes, this is the case of Angulimala. Angulimala was what we would call a serial killer. He killed hundreds of people, but then the Buddha converted him, and he became a bhikkhu, and he became an arahant. Sir, I haven't heard of this unconscious realm. Would you please expound on this? The Asanya Sata, the unconscious realm, is an odd corner of the cosmology where beings are reborn as body only with no mind. So it's like an interruption or a hiatus in the consciousness stream. They can be there for 100 kappas, and the last moment of their previous existence and the first moment of their next existence seem to be connected. They have no memory whatsoever of the in-between time. This is a result of practicing one of these heretic yogas that were practiced at the Buddha's time, where beings thought they would attain bliss by completely suppressing consciousness and perception. Will a strong feeling of metta at the moment of death prevent rebirth in Niraya? It's certainly a major factor that the last moments before death are critical in determining the rebirth. Can a stream enter ever be reborn in hell? No. This is one of the features of a stream enter, is that they can never be reborn lower than human ever again. In the suttas, that sometimes when a person attains stream entry, they make a joyful expression: "The gates of hell are shut now," or "shut for me." Is hell a sort of cosmic rehabilitation center? Or suffering and pain the currency of the universe to pay back one's misdeeds? I think that the latter is probably closer to it. There's But it's not. I think it's wrong to think of it in terms of payback. It's a cause and effect. It's an impersonal process. You create bad influence out into the universe, then it comes back at you. You then experience an intensity of that. It's just as a natural cause and effect relationship. Do Buddhists say the world is an illusion? Not exactly. No, there is a way in which the external world is has an ontological reality, but our perception of it is kind of an illusion, because we only get limited information through the senses about the external world, very limited data, signals coming in through the eyes and ears and so on, and then the mind creates a simulation from that in which we actually live. Okay, running out of time here. I'll finish up the ones that are currently on here. There's only 3 left, so I'll deal with those. Can we conclude the ultimate sense of reality that first all one monism view and second all is mental process, even the form? No. Well, I mean, talking about ultimate reality, and it's going to be endless speculation. But I wouldn't think this monism is an interpretation that would be common in the Theravada tradition. Is the last moment of death only determining factor for rebirth in hell realms? No, it's not the only factor. It's a strong factor that, and it's dependent. When you come to the moment of death, you're not going to be at your best. You're so it's not like you can live a completely wicked life and then at the very last minute I'll practice metta and take a good rebirth. It won't work like that because you've corrupted your mind all along. But it is a strong conditioning factor that the last moments before death. Can the hell realms actually be in front of our eyes and then be the animal realm? No, we'll deal with the animal realm when we get to it. It is separate. Okay, last one. Failing to attain stream entry in this life, which realm of rebirth would be most conducive to study and practice of Dhamma? The human realm. Definitely. Okay, and someone else said the stream was crystal clear. Good, I think the problem is solved. And I have to thank Shashank for his help. He gave me some technical advice on setting up OBS. The last problem I had was I tried to do it last week and I gave up because I couldn't get the video to work right. It kept coming in upside down for some reason. But now I've got that. I understand how to reorient the video. Okay, thank you, and we'll tell Realm.